Hey, everybody. Welcome to Moment of Clarity. I noticed Nick just said the Redacted Tonight is premiering the same time as Moment of Clarity. That is not true. Redacted Tonight, I believe, premieres at 8 p.m. So we should be an hour difference. Anyway, welcome to all you beautiful people. Thanks for being here. Oh, someone else I saw in the comments asked, when's the next Government Secrets coming out? The next episode of my podcast with Graham Elwood called Government Secrets. I just checked and the last one went up on the 23rd. So that was 3 days ago. So yeah, you haven't gone long without one. 3 days. We do about one a week. Okay. Give me a goddamn break. No, I'm kidding. Thank you for asking. But yeah, the next one won't be until next week. But everybody, if you haven't checked out Government Secrets, definitely do that. I got a big story to cover for you on this episode of Moment of Clarity, and you should check out Redacted Tonight in an hour. But yeah, this is about AOC. This is about Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who is considered the most progressive a congressperson could ever be. And if you watch Fox News, she is a fire-breathing Marxist fucking revolutionary with a guillotine in her pocket, just castrating anyone who's in a higher class, and she's an anarchist and a fucking Nazi at the same time. That's what Tucker Carlson will tell you. So how could it not be true? Anyway, that's what's going on in Fox News. But she has just done a relatively long form, I think maybe for her, interview with the DSA's main magazine. DSA is the Democratic Socialists of America, and she proudly says she's one of them, a DSA member. And there's a great article in the World Socialist website tearing apart this interview, and I'm going to tear apart part of it. But the part I'm not going to get into, which if you don't know much about DSA, I'm not saying everything they've ever done is bad, but if you read the history, which is in the article in the World Socialist website, besides the interview with Ocasio-Cortez, it also gets into the history of DSA, which I'll put that article in the comment section. But you can learn about the history of DSA, which it seems is largely, and I didn't know this until recently, but it's been largely used to kind of funnel people who are left of the Democratic Party, which is a lot of people, right? I mean, only 30% of America considers themselves Democrats. More people than consider themselves independents. Over 50% of America considers themselves independents, not part of the two corporate parties. That is where we stand now. And so the DSA has served over the past many decades to basically funnel people who view themselves as left of the Democratic Party into the Democratic Party. Basically, oh, silly you think that there's anything left of Democrat. Here's an idea. You could be a part of this thing called DSA and go and support the Democrats. Here you go. Go support the establishment Democrats. And again, that doesn't mean everything DSA has ever done. Like, they have protests and things that can be that can be useful. So I'm not saying, you might say, well, they helped do this one thing. It's like, yeah, that's kind of how that works. You do these things to make them seem legit, and then you use it to funnel everybody into the Democratic Party. But besides that, I don't want to get into the history of the DSA. Yes, Edward has a good point. Sheep herding. It's sheep herding farm for the DNC. But that's not really what this episode is about. I just want to read part of Ocasio-Cortez's interview and go through it and what it means and what seems so interesting and odd about it and kind of scary. and I would like to make it clear, I'm not one of these people that's like, oh, well, Ocasio-Cortez needs to be hanged from the highest lamppost or whatever. Like, if she does something positive, then I'll support the positive thing she did. If she were to actually stand up for Medicare for all, besides a tweet every once in a while, then I would support that action, that individual action, because I believe we can be torn apart and we have a lot of power when we unite. But that does not mean uniting with people who are fucking telling you to support corporate garbage Democrats. That is not uniting. That is standing up for something that is disgusting and abhorrent. It is standing up for the ruling elite, for the oligarchs, for the upper class in this ridiculous, revolting class structure. That's what that is. So, yes, if something positive is done, then I'll say that thing that was positive is good. But I'm not going to support somebody who, in their larger sense, is fucking funneling everybody into a corporate garbage party. So let's get a little into this interview in her own words. Ocasio-Cortez. By the way, if anybody donates on the super chat, all those donations will go to those in need. And if you're watching this later, it's not live, then you can't donate on the super chat, but you can donate at Venmo. It's at Lee Camp. All of those donations will go to those in need, and I get more into the details of that on the Sunday live stream, Sunday night live stream. So. And if you are someone in need, you can email commoncensored@protonmail.com and ask to be the recipient of those donations. It's kind of like a mutual aid system between me and you and those of you out there who are struggling, and those of you out there that have a few extra nickels to rub together. So, all right, here is part of Ocasio-Cortez's interview. The guy is asking her about, the work to be done and actions and everything. And she says there's a lot of work that we can do outside of electoralism, but there is critical electoral work to be done as well. I think, this is Ocasio-Cortez, I think the strategy of supporting candidates when that strategy is very calculated, focused, precise, when we aren't casting our net too wide beyond the capacities of any given local organization, is extremely effective. Now think about that. Why did she feel the need to give all of those reasons that you probably shouldn't support certain candidates? Why did she feel the need to give fucking 17 adjectives about what a candidate is allowed to be supported by her and her machine, and maybe also the Democratic machine? Because they don't want true socialists running as Democrats, and they're not going to support true socialists as Democrats. They're not going to support the Bernie Sanders. They're not going to support they didn't support Ocasio-Cortez when she ran, but they're not going to support Cori Bush, who's another one who got in, but. Very telling, Ocasio-Cortez supported Cori Bush the first time she ran. She lost. Then, as Ocasio-Cortez was slowly captured by the Democratic establishment, she didn't support Cori Bush any longer. She apparently did not go out and campaign for her in her last run, which Cori Bush has now won and is now in Congress. So AOC is either it's a strategy or she has slowly been captured by the Democratic machine, slowly meaning over the span of a year. I don't mean that slowly, rather quickly when you really look at things. But to go back to what it is she's saying here in kind of code, which, by the way, this is incredibly political of her, right? To use all of this phrasing and everything, all of this kind of code words to say, don't support candidates who are outside the mainstream, who are outside the allowable corporate fucking box of what we will put into Congress. Those are the people that we can support. This is her. I'm impersonating poorly. Those are the people we can support, are those who are inside the corporate umbrella, the corporate two-party, she's saying Democrat umbrella. So when she says, I think the strategy of supporting candidates, and by the way, why say the strategy of supporting candidates? How about just if somebody stands for real shit and really wants to create change and really wants to do all the things that are important to people in America that fucking are getting 50% of polls out there, the things like giving everybody health care, like $15 minimum wage, like fucking standing up against the ruling elite that is gutting and destroying and exploiting everybody in their goddamn minds. Like, why would you not support that person? Why is it a strategy to support certain people? Shouldn't you just support the people that are legit, that aren't part of the corporate machine? Full stop, fucking period. It doesn't, talking about it like it's a strategy is like talking about like, oh, it might hurt my brand. It's not a good branding strategy to support someone who might lose. And then this is some classic political garbage. All right. It shouldn't be a strategy. You should feel it in your fucking core. If someone actually is legit, actually stands for something, actually is not just doing it for their own goddamn ego and to make a shit ton of money, you should feel it in your core. And it shouldn't be about a strategy. It should just be like, yeah, that's what I support. That's what it should be. So even at the outset, no matter what the rest of the sentence was, just saying, I think it's a good strategy sometimes, like that's already corporate bullshit, Democrat establishment garbage. So to go through this sentence again, I think the strategy of supporting candidates, when that strategy is calculated, she says very calculated, focused, precise, when we aren't casting our net too wide. And when she says too wide, she means to the left. She means don't support people who are actually leftists, who are actually left-wing. Casting our net too wide beyond the capacities of any given local organization is extremely effective. When we are strategizing and bliggity blah, and I'm going to add 15 adjectives to a type of candidate that I could support, instead of just saying, if the motherfucker is real and supports things like healthcare for all and isn't bought and sold by corporate America, then I support them. Full stop. End of sentence. You don't need all the adjectives. All right, AOC. But she has learned this. She has learned over the past couple of years how to be a full-on establishment Democrat. So to continue her quote from this interview. And by the way, what she's about to get into is primary challenges. And primary challenges is part of the reason she was somewhat threatening in her first year in office, somewhat threatening to the Democratic establishment, because she has a lot of power. She's got 10 million Twitter followers. She's the best known Democrat outside of maybe Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi. She's got a lot of power. And if she supports someone primarying a Democrat, then that person has a damn good shot of winning. And they get a lot of money funneling into them. And so in her first year, she had said, and first maybe 2 years, had said she would primary corporate Democrats. She would help others go up against corporate Democrats and force them out. And to some degree, I didn't follow every play-by-play, but to some degree she did in the first couple of years, but now she's basically stopped. So she says here, mounting continued primary challenges or just supporting candidates in general, putting candidates in open seats. I've seen the impact of it from the inside. Putting in candidates in empty seats. Yeah. Okay. What? As if that's some bold stance. Anyway, I've seen the impact of it from the inside. How much even incumbent members of Congress, I fucking love this part. How much even incumbent members of Congress will totally reinvent themselves in a far more progressive direction because they know that their communities are watching. Now, when she says reinvent themselves, she means, and I mean, this is fucking overly obvious, she means they reinvented the bullshit they're spouting, the stuff they don't actually stand for, the way they speak at rallies has changed. Not what they're actually doing in Congress. We know that. Please point to someone in Congress who has just completely changed. They were a corporate Democrat, and now they're a fucking leftist. Please point to one. I bet you goddamn can't. You can point to many that have been captured and pulled the other way, right? But I don't think you can point to one that actually has been, for years, for 30 years, he was a corporate stooge. And then he saw a little pressure in his community from a primary. And now he's doing great work. He cares about a whole different list of things. Bullshit. All right. So she's honestly, like, that sentence is saying, I've seen the impact. I've seen how much primarying a Democrat, an incumbent member, can make them change their lies so that they lie about other things. Okay. What's that do for fucking me? Like, what's that do for average Americans? Shit all. Them changing their campaign speeches, just like Biden did, right? Just like, or Hillary did, They all of a sudden, Biden cared about climate change, supported $15 minimum wage, mentioned getting rid of student loan debt. All these things Biden was doing during his campaign. Did it change him? Did it really change him? Fuck no. He knew that the only way to get elected was to bring a certain percentage of Bernie voters over to him. And so he started spouting that garbage that he knew wasn't true. Caring about black people, right? That's what Joe Biden does. And what the other article criticizing this got deep into is that this type of garbage that she's saying is proof that she is now like the representative of defending the establishment Democrats. That is what she's become, is the front and center person, at least for, people under 50 who don't like Nancy Pelosi or some shit. She has become the main so-called progressive defender of the Democratic establishment. So I know I can't spend 17 minutes on each one of these quotes, but some on the left have, so this is the interviewer, by the way. Some at the left have looked at Biden's record and his differences with the Bernie wing of the camp of the party. And they conclude, by the way, Bernie wing of the party. You mean the fucking two people that sound anything like, I love that. Like there's a wing of the party. No, they've purged, 98% of anyone that would stand for actual real progressive ideals. Anyway, some on the left have looked at Biden's record and his differences from the Bernie wing of the party, and they conclude that no progress is going to come out of the Biden administration. What's your view? Okay. That's completely true, right? Biden so far, and I've gone through this a million times, so I don't need to do it all here again, but Biden so far is he's deported tens of thousands of immigrants. There's obviously this crisis on the border with fucking tens of thousands of children in essentially cages, although now they call them pods or facilities. He's continued our wars endlessly. He actually stopped the troop withdrawal from Afghanistan and other areas like Germany. So meaning he kept American troops out there, making him more warlike than Donald Trump. He has bombed Syria. Anyway, you get the point. This is not a fucking wonderful leftist who is president right now. So here's her response to the idea that no real change is coming from the Biden administration. She goes, well, I think it's a really privileged critique. Oh, really? You don't think it's privileged to actually think that things are better? Anyway, I'll give her a couple of words before I start tearing it apart again. AOC goes, we're going to have to focus on solidarity with one another, developing our senses for good faith critique and bad faith critique. Okay, now, first of all, solidarity, as I said at the beginning of this whole thing, is great and important when you are using it to create change. But solidarity, when it is used to stop change, when it is used to say, hey, support Biden, be a Biden person while he continues our wars overseas, while he continues to crush places like Venezuela with economic war, while he continues to deport tens of thousands of immigrants, while he continues to let corporate America run goddamn wild, while he continues to allow people to go bankrupt and have their lives destroyed by health care, while he continues all of that, support him. Solidarity. You see, solidarity can go both ways. It can be used to support a garbage administration, or it can be used as we all get together and demand real change. It can be used for either of those. She, AOC, right here in this quote, is saying we need solidarity in supporting the corporate, mainstream, bullshit, Wall Street, fucking weapons contractor, garbage, dumpster fire president. We need solidarity in that. Do ya? Do ya? All right, to continue. She says, she talks about good faith and bad faith critiques. Because bad faith critique can destroy everything that we have built so swiftly. What have you built so swiftly, other than you in office? Is that it? Is that all? Like you've built you in office so swiftly. If you're talking about even the people they call the squad, okay, you got 10 people who are progressive, maybe 10, who are somewhat progressive, seem somewhat progressive in Congress. Yet how many of them are actually creating some sort of large-scale change? Yes, you've got a Medicare for All bill that was put up recently in the past, whatever, week or 2 weeks. Why wait? Why did they wait until now? Why didn't they jam it into the COVID bill? Why didn't they jam it in when during force the vote and make Nancy Pelosi fear for her position? Why haven't they made a big fucking deal about it? You could have speeches on the White House lawn every goddamn day demanding Medicare for all if you really wanted to. Imagine the number of people Ocasio-Cortez could demand out to the White House lawn if she really wanted to on a regular basis. But no, they don't want to do all that. You just go, you settle down. You go back, you keep quiet. And one day we'll give you health care. Not during a pandemic, not when it's probably more important than ever before, but later one day, we're going to work on it. We're going to think about it. We're going to do a study. There's going to be a study. There's going to be a committee about creating the study, and then a study to create a new committee. It's going to be a dual committee study committee, dual committee report. We're going to get a report in there. Report, study, committee, study, report, and then a study of that committee's report. And then we're going to disband it and talk about something else. So, that should be pretty cool. She continues, because bad faith critique can destroy everything we have built so swiftly. I don't know what the fuck she's talking about. Maybe she means Biden in office. Is that what you've built so swiftly? She says, and we know this because it has in the past. And it's taken us so many decades to get to this point. What point is that? It's taken us so many decades to get to the point that Republicans and corporate America own the entire government, the entire legal system, the entire law enforcement, and all of our media airwaves. So if that's what you mean, yes, it did take decades to get there. And I don't see it stopping anytime soon, not with you, AOC, being considered the most left thing that has ever existed. She says, we do not have the time or the luxury to entertain bad faith actors in our movement. This is garbage. Bad faith actors in her movement means anyone who dares criticize her. But also we have to value our solidarity with one another in supporting Joe Biden and endless war. For anyone who brings, we have to value our solidarity with one another. For anyone who brings that up, we really have to ask ourselves, and by that she means brings up a criticism of Biden. Like literally, that she's referring to the question the guy asked. For anyone who brings up a criticism of Joe Biden, we really have to ask ourselves, what is the message that you're sending to your, I'm not kidding, this is the quote. Anyone who brings up a criticism of whether Biden will be the same, what is the message you are sending to your black and brown and undocumented members of your community, to your friends, when you say nothing has changed? What? Are you fucking serious? Go talk to the fucking immigrants that are still being deported. Go talk to the tens of thousands of immigrants that have already been deported under Joe Biden. Are they not black and brown people? Ask them what they think of how much has changed. Huh? Ask the people across this country that are facing just gut-wrenching rent that is caving down around them because they haven't had a job in a year since this goddamn pandemic started. Whereas other countries, they've managed to keep almost everybody employed or getting paid the same because the fucking rescue plans gave the companies enough money and said, this is to pay your employees, don't fire them. If you don't fire them, we'll give you this money to continue paying them. Other countries, in several other countries, employees have gotten 80% of what they had before the pandemic, even if they're not at work. I mean, there's so many. And those who she's speaking about who think that things have changed, that just means they bought into the garbage. That just means they bought into the endless propaganda across all our corporate airwaves. So you're telling me that's the people you like, just because they bought into that garbage, that who you should ask, who you should discuss it with? How about you should try and educate them as to why CNN is wrong, as to why Fox News is wrong, as to why MSNBC is wrong. How about that, rather than just go to them and say, hey, you think everything's changed since Trump got out of office? All right, great. I guess I was wrong then. And then she gets in, I love this part, she gets into a semantic argument while continually saying it's not a semantic argument. Ocasio-Cortez says, perhaps not enough has changed. Perhaps not enough has changed. And this is a continued quote. Perhaps not enough has changed, and this is not a semantic argument. Yeah, it is. This is not a semantic argument. Just the other night, we in collective struggle were able to stop the deportations of critical members of our community. And that would not have happened in a Trump administration. So, and she uses that as like proof of how great Biden is and how wonderful things are, that they were able to stop the deportation of some people that were already planning on, they were going to be deported under Trump, and then they were able to stop it. Okay, great. I'm glad those people weren't deported. That does not mean Biden's a wonderful president and that Democratic corporate establishment politics is wonderful. That is not what that means. That would be like saying, that would be like if you were at a concentration camp during the Holocaust and they switched the guards and the new higher up at the concentration camp killed only 95% of the Jews. And you go, hey, this is great what we have going here. You're telling me that you go tell the 5% that are still alive that you think nothing has changed. You go tell the 5% that we were able to save that this isn't much better now. It's like, yeah, it might be better for a few people. That doesn't mean it's fucking something you should support. It doesn't mean you should run around with a flag. Look how great things are. Look at this 5% we saved. Fucking no. All right. Jesus Christ, man. But that's exactly what she's saying. She's saying support the guy who created the bill, the legislation that has locked up more people of color than anything ever. Even more than slavery, because right now there are more black people in prison than there were slaves during slavery times. So in America, he created the legislation and helped force through and convinced Bill Clinton to force through, not that Clinton was a good guy and needed convincing, but force through the legislation that locked up more people of color than anything in this country's history. And we've seen a fucking stratospheric rise in incarceration of minority communities. And that's the guy. And he's president now. And she's saying, let's talk about how awesome he is. Let's celebrate him. Let's wear a poster across our chest that says, Biden's my guy. Yeah, Biden. Again, fucking no. And here's the thing. I want to be clear here. I have not been one of these people that's like, simply because AOC ran as a Democrat, fuck her. I am not one of those people. I was like, well, let's see what she does. Let's see how she behaves. Let's see what she says in interviews. Then I'll make choices. Then I'll call out where she does horseshit, and I'll talk about good stuff she does as well. This interview, along with a lot of other things she's done, is horseshit and is straight up mainstream establishment garbage. Let's see, continue here. Well, she continues talking about a few deportations they were able to save. And then she says, when you say nothing has changed, you are calling the people who are now protected from deportation no one. And we cannot allow for that in our movement. I mean, honestly, that right there is some fucking class A horseshit. To look at people who demand more than just a few deportations stopped while the Biden administration continues to deport tens of thousands. To look at people who demand more and say, you're calling those people who haven't been deported no one. Honestly, again, to go back to the concentration camp, I know it's a cliche example, but people reference the Nazis for a reason. It's like the higher ups of the concentration camp switch. Instead of 100% of the Jews being killed, 95% are being killed. And you go, well, if you say nothing's changed, then I want you're calling those 5% nothing. You're calling those 5% no one. And so therefore, put on this t-shirt that says, I love Nazis. How about go fuck yourself? How about no? How about I'm not going to jump up and down because a few deportations were stopped while deportations continue, while tens of thousands of children are in pods. Don't call them cages. Don't call them cages. They're the new and improved pods. They may look like cages to you, but no, these are pods. They're futuristic. They sound lovely. They've got cushions all over the place. Not really, but it sounds like they do because they're called pods. Anything called a pod must be lovely and futuristic and comfortable. All right. So she says we can't allow that in our movement. I'm not even sure what her movement is. What is her fucking movement? To get into office and then not actually stand up for the things you claim to stand for? That's quite a movement. Very excited about it. Okay. So then she says, we're so susceptible to cynicism. And she's calling cynicism anybody who dare criticize her from the left. That is cynicism to her. Rather than just reality, rather than just demanding more, rather than just fighting for what should be fought for. And she goes, that is cynicism, and it's the weaponization of cynicism. And it's what has and what continues to threaten to tear down everything that we have spent so much time building up. Oh my God, you're right. What exactly did we build? Totally true, AOC. I couldn't support you more. What was it we built? Well, I'm just wondering what was everything we've built so far? Because I think we're still one of the richest countries in the world without healthcare. I think we are watching our infrastructure collapse, and Wall Street is running wild while people make less than ever before. And in fact, $50 trillion of wealth has been shifted from the bottom 90% to the top 1% over just the past 40 years. Is that what you were referring to being built? Because that's what's happening. That's what we're in the middle of. That's what we fucking spend our day to day in. So I don't know what the fuck you think you built, except maybe a 10 million Twitter following. Is that the big deal? Is that what we're celebrating? And she then concludes this with, she talks about weaponization of cynicism that's tearing down everything we built. And then she goes, we're allowed to win too, by the way. And then the interviewer writes that she laughs at the end. We're allowed to win too. All I can gather from that is she's saying, drop your ideals, get in line, and then we can win races. We can win campaigns as long as we don't support real change. So stop being critical, stop being a cynic, and get in line with just acting like tiny nothing change is real change. So, yeah, I realize I'm going a little long here, but I feel like I haven't gotten into the half of it. What's the other thing I wanted to... It was one other part I wanted to read. She talks about... Okay, so this is perhaps the closest... I mean, this interviewer largely asks, pretty fawning kind of easy questions to deal with. This might be the closest he comes to asking something that's a little tougher. So or it might be a she, actually. I think the interviewer was a he. He says, one of the exciting things about your early days in Congress was your willingness to break from convention. And this is very true. Like when you blew the lid on the freshman orientation that was crawling with corporate lobbyists. Those early moments actually showed that AOC was not your normal bullshit to get elected and then just be a fawning corporate Democrat. These were the things where people were like, see, she is fucking real. Wow, she is real. She's calling out the Democrats on surrounding her with corporate lobbyists during the orientation. So he continues the question. Willingness to break from convention, like you blew the lid on the orientation with corporate lobbyists, or when you appeared at the Sunrise Movement sit-in in Pelosi's office. Has your strategy shifted at all from those days? And by the way, that was another one, which I'm not going to get into whether the Sunrise Movement has achieved much, but the fact that she was willing to be involved in any protest that's at Nancy Pelosi's door in her office was pretty fucking incredible, in my opinion, because as we know, these lawmakers, they get in, and even if they had said, yeah, I'm going to upend everything, I'm going to tear everything apart, I'm going to fucking stand up to those swamp creatures, even if they do that, they tend to get in and go, oh, well, actually, you're my friend now. You're my bestie. I'm Nancy Pelosi's mama bear. Ironically, that's where AOC is now, right? Nancy Pelosi's mama bear. How about that for a change? You go from protesting in Nancy Pelosi's office on your first day to calling her mama bear and voting for her to be Speaker of the House. That's quite a shift. And that shows how AOC has been captured by this system. And it's fucking upsetting. I can't say that I didn't think it would happen. But so this guy asked this question, which you'd think AOC needs to be like, oh, fuck, you're right. I don't do that anymore. I don't do that anymore. I don't protest Congress. I don't stand up to them. I know she's not going to say these things, but I'm saying, that's the truth. So he says, has your strategy shifted at all from those days? She says, I don't think so. I do think that, and of course it has, because she would never in a million fucking years be at another protest in Nancy Pelosi's office. She might tweet something that says Nancy Pelosi needs to do this or that. I don't know if she's even done that recently, but she's certainly not showing up at a fucking protest. She says, I don't think so. I do think that the pandemic has complicated. Oh, yeah, it was the pandemic. Has complicated those things a little bit. Right. She was not showing up to protest for a year or two before the pandemic. Okay. It is not the pandemic that changed the way that AOC behaves. She says, because a lot of stuff really does happen behind closed doors. All right. So she gets into bullshit about the pandemic. One thing I do think that has changed is that I do believe we're getting more sophisticated. So apparently actually protesting, actually fighting against these swamp scum that are in Congress, that's not sophisticated. That's not smart. Fuck you. She says, I think about all of our tactics as different tools in a toolbox. And when I first started, I had a hammer. And when you have a hammer, everything's a nail, as they say. And then as you learn about other methods, you can get a wrench and then a screwdriver. And then you're able to add a lot more to your tools. You add the tools of electoralism, supporting other members to join. You have the tools of sunlight. What in the flying fuck? That is the biggest garbage I've ever heard. And it's calling every protester who actually is on the front lines a like Neanderthal with a hammer. You're just an idiot with a club. You're not sophisticated. You don't know how power really works. And let's remember that if you look at the large Princeton study that actually analyzed Congress and whether anything happens for Americans that they want, it never, ever happens. It never gets passed through Congress if it doesn't align with corporate interests. If something that Americans want doesn't align with corporate interests, it never happens. Meaning, what she's saying, the more sophisticated tool of electoralism, she's saying that's the real tool. That's the good tool. That's the smart people's tool. That tool has proven to provide zero, nothing for real Americans, for average Americans, for working Americans. Nothing unless it aligns with corporate America. This is not saying nothing ever gets passed, like $1,400 checks. Okay, that's, people who aren't really listening to what I'm saying might go, $1,400 checks. I know that some people don't consider that a lot of money. It's a lot of money to me. And so I got that. There you go. Something for working class Americans got through Congress. That aligned with corporate America, okay? Because they know that people need to have just enough breadcrumbs to survive or this machine doesn't keep running. So that aligns with corporate America. But nothing that doesn't align with corporate America ever gets through, according to a massive Princeton study. You can go look it up. I think it's called the Oligarchy Study, or it talks a lot about our oligarchy and how America is now an oligarchy, not a democracy. But so this is utter horseshit from AOC. This is fucking garbage you would expect to read from the most entrenched, disgusting Republican or Democrat congressperson. This is like an interview with Nancy Pelosi or fucking John McCain or some shit. I mean, not now. He's been a little quiet since he got put in that box and sunk into the ground. But before that, he was more talkative. But I mean, this is, that's not sophisticated to actually protest. It's not sophisticated to demand change other than getting a ruling elite person into office with a lot of money. And that's the sophisticated way to behave. That's the elite and successful and academic and intelligent way to behave and create change. Not really, but that's what she's saying. It is so fucking infuriating. And you look at like how she's been captured and what she is now. And it's like, you would never show up to a protest at Nancy Pelosi's doorstep. Instead, you call her Mama Bear. You are running defense for the Biden administration, for corporate America, for Wall Street. And I don't know if she even realizes she's doing it. I mean, maybe. If you want to be truly cynical, she knew all along. And this was part of her plan all along. I'm perhaps not quite that cynical, and I believe that she probably somewhat thought she'd create some change and now thinks that, I'm in the office. I'm basically running for president for the next 10 years until I actually get in there. And so I need to go along with the Democratic establishment and not really ruffle feathers. I mean, honestly, you read sentences like that, and no matter, look, there's a lot of stupid criticisms of AOC. There's a lot of dumb ones. There's a lot of fake ones. You turn on Tucker Carlson any night of the week, you will hear all of the stupidest criticisms and fake and false criticisms of AOC you could ever want. She's a crazy maniac Marxist who wants to burn everything down. But the truth is, these are the legit criticisms that she has been captured by this corporate establishment, as most of them are. Maybe there's some new one or two new ones that might not be, but who knows? And I'll be honest, I don't spend my day looking at every vote that every congressperson makes, because I don't feel that's where real change happens. I'm not saying nothing can ever happen in Congress, but it's so fucking slim that you should spend maybe 5% of your thought process about creating change concerning yourself with Congress at all, or the presidency. Maybe 5%, probably less. And I mean, real change is created in all the because of the amount of change that has to happen over the next 5-10 years in order for our environment to sustain, in order for us to survive. You can't do it like this. You can't do it by getting some slightly progressive candidate into Congress, or as AOC says, well, there was a primary against an incumbent, and the incumbent still won, but he really did change the way he's been talking. You know, he uses the correct pronouns for trans people now, and that we've gotten that shift, and that is it. That's all. It's like, all right. I'm glad you got that. I don't think that's worth a lot of, I don't think that's going to create the change that's going to make us survive in the next 20 years, over the next 20 years. Obviously, you should use the correct pronouns. I'm not saying otherwise. I'm just saying we need a little more than just that. We need a little more than the 5% that the new Nazi guards have saved at the Holocaust, at the concentration camp. So I wanted to show you one other thing here, unrelated, but you can check out that article for yourself. The criticism of it is in the World Socialist website, but the initial article, her initial interview, is at democraticleft.dsausa.org. But as I said, the DSA, you know, I'm not saying they've never done anything positive, but they're largely sheepdogs to herd everybody into the Democratic Party. You know, they talk more about socialism, use the word socialism more, talk more about leftism maybe, but then they go, and vote for Biden. And here's Biden. Yay. That's what they do. So if you're excited about that, then I guess you're a different person than I am. Okay, so I wanted to show you, I just came from a protest here in Washington, D.C., and normally I don't highlight local protests that much, but this should be national. I mean, it is national. This is a cancel the rent protest going on in D.C., but it is one of God knows how many thousands that have happened over the past year to cancel the rent during this pandemic when so many people don't have jobs and can't get by. So I just have a couple of photos here from the protest. So yeah, this is a cancel the rent in Washington, D.C. This is my tweet. Millions face eviction and homelessness during this pandemic while billionaires have added $1 trillion. It's actually more like 1.2 or 3 now, trillion dollars to their disgusting wealth. And this is just some of the people that came out. This is not all of them, but it's honestly tough to get photos of a crowd because people are in different spots and shit. But you know, this is important because these apartment buildings, these specific ones that they're in front of, don't like to see that people are protesting. They're not used to being protested against. And so it can create change within that apartment building. You know, 100, 200, 300 people may not seem like many, but when it's against an apartment building that's never had a protest against them in their history, they're like, oh, fuck, this is going to hurt our ability to lease out new apartments. This is going to hurt our ability to function. And so it actually can have an impact for that individual apartment building. Beyond that, we need to see these going on around the country. We need to pressure every politician at any level to cancel the rent because they don't just owe a month of rent. There's been a moratorium. People owe tens of thousands of dollars and they don't have the amount of money for 1 month of rent. How are they going to pay for a fucking year when the moratorium is lifted? It's totally ridiculous. And we need this rent canceled because landlords are not suffering right now. I'm sorry. They're really not. And these should be going viral. These type of protests should be going viral around the country. But of course, Twitter and YouTube and stuff are doing their job, suppressing content about it. But look it up. Look up a cancel the rent protest in your area. Talk about it. Share with your friends. It is, again, talk about uniting and solidarity. This is the type of thing that can unite a lot of people. You could be left wing, right wing. It doesn't fucking matter. A lot of people are standing up for canceling the rent. So please share that campaign. I'm going to wrap up here, but like I said, all of the donations today are going to those in need, those who are struggling. And if you are one of those people in need, you can email commoncensored@protonmail.com. We try and help out people with, we're not talking thousands of dollars. We try and give $100 maybe to each person. But it depends on how much comes in and things like that. If you're watching this later, you can also shoot it to Venmo @LeeCamp is my name on Venmo @LeeCamp. And what else? Check out my podcast, Common Censored, Government Secrets, Moment of Clarity. Those are my 3 podcasts. And my TV show, Redacted Tonight, which is coming out right now. You can go watch it right now. It's like at 8 o'clock. You can watch it on portable TV, or you can watch it on youtube.com/Redacted Tonight. I will see you next time. I do these every single weekday, except sometimes. And Eleanor Goldfield and I will be live on Sunday night, roughly 8 or 9 p.m. at youtube.com/Moment of Clarity. All right. Keep fighting.